In 2025 and early 2026, archaeologists made 5 discoveries. 5 discoveries that didn't just change what we know, they changed who we thought we were. One of them was found 6 meters underground in a city in Germany, with evidence of what scientists are careful not to call human sacrifice, but can't quite explain otherwise. One revealed that your ancestors were capable of something that history books are afraid to describe in full. One proved that human beings were playing games of probability 25,000 years ago, 6,000 years before Sumer, before the wheel, before written language. Stay until the end, because discovery number 5 contains an image that scientists say should not exist, an image that no living human should have been able to paint. This is World Factum. Every discovery in this video happened in the last 6 months. Every source is cited below. Everything you're about to hear is real. Let's begin with the one found 6 meters underground, in a city of 780,000 people in Germany. April 5th, 2026. A construction crew was excavating for a new infrastructure project in the city center. Standard procedure, standard equipment, standard city-issued permits. They were 6 meters down when their equipment hit something that was not on any geological survey, not on any city record, not on any map. Stone, carved, deliberate, ancient. The site was immediately handed to archaeologists from Goethe University, Frankfurt, and the Hessian State Office for the Preservation of Historical Monuments. What they found over the next 72 hours of excavation was a complete Roman sanctuary complex, 3rd century AD, hidden since the collapse of Roman control over the region. 1,700 years. 6 meters under a city of 780,000 people. Hidden. The sanctuary contained 3 separate stone altars, and here is where the standard archaeology ends and the questions begin. The altars were not randomly positioned. They were aligned, precisely aligned, with the winter solstice sunrise, to within a fraction of a degree. This level of astronomical precision was not accidental. It required planning, observation, knowledge, and it required someone to make a decision. We are going to build this here, oriented this way, because what we are doing here matters. Around the altars, burned animal bones, not scattered, concentrated, in quantities that the researchers describe as suggesting not occasional worship, but continuous, generational, permanent devotion. And near each altar, human remains. Fragments strategically placed, one near each of the 3 altars, in positions that the excavation report describes as inconsistent with burial and consistent with deposition. The researchers in the report published to Science Daily on April 5th, 2026, used a very specific phrase. They said the placement and condition of the remains was, quote, consistent with deliberate ritual deposition. Deliberate ritual deposition. That is the clinical scientific language for, we believe someone put these human remains here intentionally as part of a religious act. We believe people were killed here or brought here after death as offerings, but we cannot prove it beyond reasonable doubt, so we will not say it outright. What makes this discovery extraordinary beyond the ritual question is the location. Frankfurt in the 3rd century was at the absolute bleeding edge of Roman control. The Roman frontier, the limes, ran through this region. Roman soldiers were fighting Germanic tribes across the Rhine. This was contested, violent, constantly threatened territory. And yet, someone built a sanctuary here. Not a temporary field shrine. A permanent, astronomically aligned, multi-altar sanctuary. And they maintained it for generations. Think about what that means. In the most dangerous place in the empire, people were still carving altars, still making offerings, still finding something worth worshiping. And this discovery pushes the boundary of Roman religious practice further north than any previous evidence suggested. We now know that Roman sanctuaries existed deep in the frontier zone, not just behind the safety of established cities. The investigation of the site is ongoing. More of the complex may still be beneath Frankfurt's streets. We may be looking at the surface of something much larger. Discovery 2. From a city of 780,000 people in 2026 to a cave 40,000 years ago. From Roman priests to something far older, far darker, and far closer to what you might see in your own DNA. Discovery number 2, Romania, a cave complex in the Carpathian Mountains. Published in the Journal of Human Evolution, February 21st, 2026. A research team had been excavating the site across multiple seasons. Standard Paleolithic archaeology. Neanderthal occupation layers, stone tools, animal bones. The usual assemblage of a site occupied 40,000 years ago. Then they sent a bone sample to the lab for genetic analysis. Routine. Hundreds of bone samples from this site had already been processed. The results came back, and the lead researcher called the team together. The cut marks. The bones had cut marks, the kind made by a stone tool, deliberately, with purpose. The kind of marks that appear when you are processing something, removing flesh, separating joints, accessing marrow. And the bones were Neanderthal. Now, Neanderthal cannibalism is not a new discovery. There is evidence of it going back to the 1990s. Humans did it too, in prehistoric contexts, in conditions of extreme starvation, in ritual practices, in warfare. What makes the 2026 Romanian discovery different, what makes it genuinely unprecedented, is the genetic analysis. The team cross-referenced the DNA of the consumed individuals with the DNA found in other bone fragments at the same site, fragments that showed no consumption marks. Individuals who lived there, who belonged to the local group. The consumed individuals were genetically distinct. They were not locals. They were outsiders. Let me say that clearly. The Neanderthals at this site were not in a famine. They were not eating each other in desperation. They were killing and consuming members of a different group, a group that was not their own. They had a concept of us. They had a concept of them. And they acted on that distinction in the most violent way possible. This is behavior we previously associated only with modern humans. The capacity for organized, intentional, intergroup violence. Not opportunistic predation, not starvation. Organized, intentional, intergroup. For decades, the dominant narrative in Neanderthal science was one of peaceful, isolated groups living in small bands, avoiding each other, adapting quietly. This evidence suggests something very different. They competed, they raided, they consumed their rivals. The implications for how we understand Neanderthal extinction are significant. Homo sapiens arrived in Europe approximately 45,000 years ago. For the next 5,000 years, both species coexisted. Then, the Neanderthals were gone. We know there was interbreeding. Modern Europeans carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. But there was also violence. And we now know that Neanderthals were already organized for intergroup violence before modern humans even arrived. What happened during those 5,000 years of coexistence? The honest answer is, we don't fully know. But we now know that the Neanderthals we shared this planet with were not passive. They were territorial, they were organized, and they were capable of treating outsiders as prey. Discovery 2, complete. From 40,000 years ago to 25,000 years ago. From the question of how we survive to the question of how we play, and why the discovery of Ice Age dice changes everything about human cognition. Discovery number 3, Siberia. A Paleolithic excavation site, occupation layer dated to approximately 25,000 years ago. Published in the Journal of Archaeological Science, covered by Smithsonian Magazine in April 2026. The objects were found during routine sifting of sediment from the excavation site. Routine sifting finds hundreds of fragments, bone chips, stone tool debris, charcoal. The overwhelming majority of it is not significant in isolation. But these objects were small, carved, symmetrical, with deliberate markings on multiple faces. They were initially classified as decorative objects, possibly pendants, possibly counting tools of unknown purpose. Archaeological sites of this era sometimes contain enigmatic carved objects that resist easy classification. Then the statistical analysis came back, and the classification changed immediately. The research team ran a mathematical analysis of the face distributions on the carved objects. They were looking for randomness, the kind of unintentional variation you get when carving is purely decorative. They did not find randomness. They found balance. Near perfect probability weighting across the faces of the objects. Each face approximately equally likely to land face up. The same balance that defines a fair die. 25,000 years ago, in Siberia, someone carved objects with equal probability weighting across 6 faces without any formal mathematical system, without writing, without a word for probability, but with the knowledge, practical, empirical, tested knowledge that outcomes should be equal, and the skill to engineer their tools to achieve it. The previous oldest known dice were from ancient Sumer, Mesopotamia, dating to approximately 5,000 years ago. These objects pushed that date back by 20,000 years, a revision of 400%. But the oldest ever date is not the most important implication. The most important implication is cognitive. To make a fair die, whether you call it a die or not, you have to understand that outcomes can be equalized, that chance is not purely chaotic, that you can design for probability, that the world is not only shaped by strength or skill or hierarchy. Sometimes, the carved bone decides. That is abstract reasoning. That is mathematical intuition. That is the kind of thinking we celebrate in ancient Greece, 20,000 years later. The study raises but does not answer the question of what these objects were used for. Games, almost certainly. But games of what kind? For what stakes? Between whom? Under what rules? The fact that they played games at all, with randomness, with agreed rules, with something at stake, tells us that Ice Age humans had social structures sophisticated enough to support competition with rules, to accept outcomes they didn't control, to play fair. We gave ancient Greece credit for inventing rational thought. We gave Mesopotamia credit for inventing games. The 2026 discovery suggests both of those credits need revision. The thinking started much earlier, in a place much colder, by people we have barely begun to understand. 3 discoveries down, 2 to go. Discovery 4, a 4,500-year-old question. How was the Great Pyramid built? And the 2026 hypothesis that might finally have an answer. Discovery number 4, April 13th, 2026. Giza, Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, 2.3 million stone blocks. The heaviest individual blocks weigh 80 tons. The entire structure weighs approximately 6 million tons. It was built over roughly 20 years, completed around 2560 BC. For 3,800 years, it was the tallest structure ever built by human hands. And for 4,500 years, since the moment the last stone was placed, we have not had a proven, complete theory of how it was built. The obvious problem, the external ramp. The simplest theory is that workers dragged blocks up a ramp. But a ramp long enough and gentle enough to move 80-ton blocks to the pyramid's peak would need to be approximately as large as the pyramid itself, requiring as much material and labor as the pyramid it was supposed to be building. Every other theory has its own problems. Internal spiral ramps, possible but unprovable. Water lubrication, yes, but doesn't explain the upper levels. Kite-powered lifting systems, not supported by evidence. And the others you've heard about, we won't go there. On April 13th, 2026, a research team published the Integrated Edge Ramp Hypothesis. And it addresses the fundamental problem in a way no previous theory has managed. The hypothesis, instead of one massive external ramp, the builders used multiple smaller ramps built into the corners of the structure as it rose, integrated into the corners of the pyramid itself, built from the same limestone, spiraling upward around the outside. This would allow multiple work teams to operate simultaneously on multiple levels. It would eliminate the impossible scale problem of the single external ramp. And, critically, when the pyramid was complete, the corner ramps could be dismantled and the stone reused, which explains why no trace of them exists today. But the hypothesis is supported not just by logic. It is supported by 3 independent lines of evidence. First, muon imaging. In 2017, a scanning project using particle physics to see inside the pyramid identified an anomalous internal structure, a previously unknown chamber or passage, whose position and orientation align with what the corner ramp hypothesis predicts. Second, tool mark analysis. Specific blocks in the upper sections of the pyramid show tool mark patterns consistent with the movement directions predicted by the corner ramp model, not consistent with any other construction method. Third, and this is the most compelling line of evidence, the error distribution analysis. The Great Pyramid is not perfect. It has small, millimeter-level variations in block placement. And the 2026 mathematical model shows that these variations, their location, magnitude, and pattern, precisely match what corner ramp construction would produce, not what any other method would produce. The errors in the pyramid are not random. They are systematic, and their pattern is a fingerprint of the construction method. This hypothesis will be challenged. All theories in archaeology are. But it is currently the only hypothesis that explains not just how the blocks were moved, but why the imperfections are where they are. 4,500 years, one of the most persistent questions in human history. And a study published in April 2026 may have produced the most credible answer ever offered. And now, Discovery 5, the one I told you about at the beginning. The painting, the impossible animal, the image that should not exist, and the three explanations, each one more unsettling than the last. Discovery number 5, South Africa. Published in Smithsonian Magazine, April 2026.
The etching here is definitely
A survey team
dynastic.
cataloging prehistoric rock art in a remote region of South Africa found the painting they had not previously documented. On a sheltered rock face, protected from weathering by an overhang, preserved with unusual clarity. The painting depicted an animal, large, clearly rendered, with enough specific anatomical detail to be scientifically identifiable. An animal that had not existed in this region for approximately 3,000 years. The team used rock varnish dating, a technique for measuring when pigment was applied to a rock surface, to date the painting. The result? Less than 1,000 years ago. A painting made less than 1,000 years ago of an animal last seen in this region 3,000 years ago. A gap of 2,000 years between when the animal disappeared and when someone painted it from, apparently, life. There are 3 explanations, and none of them is comfortable. Explanation 1. The dating is wrong. The varnish analysis picked up a later repainting, a refreshing of the original pigment at a date within the last 1,000 years. The original painting could be far older. If this is the explanation, the discovery is an interesting methodological lesson and nothing more. Explanation 2. The animal survived. In this specific region, in small, isolated groups, perhaps in a valley, perhaps in a microclimate, the species continued to exist for 2,000 years longer than any other evidence suggests, until it was finally seen and painted by someone who was looking at a living animal. If explanation 2 is correct, there are 2 implications. 1. A species we thought went extinct 3,000 years ago survived much longer than we knew. 2. Its survival and final extinction went entirely undocumented, except for this one painting, because the people who saw it had no writing system. History is what gets recorded, not everything that happened. Explanation 3. The most extraordinary of the 3, and, based on the preliminary analysis, the one the research team considers most likely pending further investigation. The painter had never seen the animal, but they knew what it looked like, because someone who had seen it told someone who told someone who told someone across 2,000 years and perhaps 100 generations, until the knowledge arrived, intact, accurate, and detailed enough to produce a scientifically identifiable portrait of an animal that had been gone for 2,000 years. If explanation 3 is correct, if a painting was made from oral tradition alone, transmitted across 2,000 years without writing, without photographs, without anything but memory and storytelling, then we have to reconsider what oral tradition is capable of. We have evidence of oral traditions preserving accurate geological information across 10,000 years. Indigenous Australian stories that describe coastlines that were submerged when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age. The rock art in South Africa may be another data point in the same direction. Human memory, when distributed across communities, embedded in story, reinforced across generations, may be more accurate, more durable, and more scientifically valid than we give it credit for. The painting exists, The dating says less than 1,000 years. The animal was gone for 3,000 years before that. The investigation is ongoing. We do not yet know which explanation is correct. What we know is that somewhere in South Africa, someone painted something they should not have been able to paint. And the image is still there, on the rock, waiting for an answer. 5 discoveries: Frankfurt, Romania, Siberia, Giza, South Africa. A Roman sanctuary that kept its secrets under a modern city for 1,700 years. Neanderthals who organized themselves for intergroup violence 40,000 years ago. Ice Age humans who understood probability 25,000 years ago. A construction method for the Great Pyramid that turns the pyramid's own imperfections into evidence. And a painting of an animal that should not have been paintable. Every one of these discoveries happened in the last 6 months. Every one of them will generate years of further research. And every one of them tells us something not just about the past, but about what we are. We are territorial, we are playful, we are builders, we are storytellers. And even at the edges of empire, even in caves, even in ice, we still found things worth worshiping. If that's the kind of history you want to keep exploring, subscribe. We cover the stories that didn't make it into the textbooks. New video every week.